Hi, this is Ethan from Central Computers. Today we're going to be unboxing ASUS's brand new TUF Gaming Z890-PRO Wi-Fi motherboard, which ASUS themselves kindly provided to us for this video. With it being a Z890 chipset, this motherboard is on the LGA1851 socket, so you're currently only able to use the new line of Intel Core Ultra processors with this part. If you're interested, we do sell the Intel Core Ultra CPUs on our website, along with a wide range of compatible Z890 motherboards. You can order them on the website anywhere in the US, or you can come to our physical stores in the San Francisco Bay Area where you can see everything for yourself. Now moving on to the actual unboxing, the outer packaging for this motherboard is visually similar to the previous TUF Z790-PRO. It's just white now because the board itself is also white. Opening it up here, I'm just going to move the board out of the way for now while we look at the box contents. Firstly, we have the manual and documentation, some stylish TUF branded stickers, and then there's this Get Tough Game Tough plate, just in case your motherboard needs daily affirmation to stay in peak condition. It's completely optional and you don't have to put it on, but honestly, why wouldn't you? And then moving on to the standard accessories, you got some SATA cables, the antennas for your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and you got some foam pads for your M.2 drives as well. That's about it for the box contents. Now moving on to the motherboard. This thing is wicked. The first thing that stands out to me are these long heatsinks that cover the PCIe and M.2 slots. There's so much coverage here that it almost resembles a fence if a fence were made of metal. Moving over to the top half of the board, you've also got these insanely chunky aluminum VRM heatsinks, and these aren't just for show. In this entire corner section, there's very minimal empty space. It's densely packed, and that's because they're functional. They actually serve the purpose of cooling your VRMs. This board features 16 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 80 amp power stages, and it's important to mention that the cooler mounting cutouts for the LGA1851 socket are the same as the LGA1700. This means that older coolers will be compatible with this new socket. Just keep in mind that older contact frames will not work, however. Now here's another detail that immediately caught my attention. This primary M.2 slot down here has this huge aluminum heatsink on it. It can easily be removed without any tools by simply just pressing on this latch, instantly giving you access to the M.2 slot, which is super cool. The drive itself is also held down by a special latch, so you don't even need to screw it in. And as for the rest of the slots that are under the big metal cover here, while you do have to unscrew the metal cover to gain access to them, they all have the same latch design that lets you remove them from the slot itself without having to use an M.2 screw. To be honest, we love this feature. It's very clever and we hope ASUS keeps implementing it into their boards. Now the top M.2 slot is a PCIe Gen 5, and the rest here are Gen 4, which gives you a very generous total of 4 M.2 slots. For the PCIe slots, the top one, which has a cool white and glossy paint finish on it, is a PCIe Gen 5x16 slot. At the bottom, you have a PCIe Gen 4x16 slot. Sandwiched between them, there's two PCIe Gen 4x1 slots and a single Gen 4x4 slot. So if you're someone who uses a lot of expansion cards, this might be a board to look out for. Now is a good time to talk about all the connectivity on this motherboard. Starting in the top left here, you have two 8-pin EPS 12V power connectors, using the ASUS ProCool design that ensures proper contact is being made between the power supply cable and the motherboard connector. Moving over to the top right, you have a 4-pin PWM CPU fan header, an optional CPU fan header, your debug lights, and an AIO pump header. Interestingly, the 4-pin PWM headers have these little covers on them, presumably to protect them in transit or while they're not being used, and which is neat. Then we have a 3-pin ARGB header, the 24-pin ATX connector, a 20GB USB-C front panel header, followed by a 10GB USB Type-A front panel header, two SATA ports sitting snugly under the metal cover. And moving on to the bottom right of the motherboard here, we've got our front panel connector, a 2-pin temperature sensor header, a 4-pin PWM fan header, two more SATA ports, another 4-pin PWM header, two 3-pin ARGB headers, two USB 2.0 headers, and then a 2-pin chassis intrusion header right above one of them. And then it's got a USB 4 header right next to it. Under the USB 4 header, there's a 2-pin header that you can use to clear CMOS, a 4-pin PWM header right next to it, a serial connector, and your front panel audio. So in case you lost count, this board features two 4-pin CPU fan headers and 4 chassis fan headers, including this last one here that's sitting above the M.2 slot. Tons of fan connectivity, RGB connectivity, basically everything you need for a sick gaming PC. Lastly, let's take a look at the rear I/O that this board has to offer. Starting on the left side, we have a display port sitting on top of an HDMI port for your integrated graphics, and then a BIOS flashback button sitting right next to them. These 5 TL USB Type-A ports that you see here are all 10GB. Then you have dual Thunderbolt 4 USB Type-C ports, which seems to be one of the main selling points of both the Z890 and X870 motherboards in general. On that topic, this motherboard, like many Z890 boards, also boasts Wi-Fi 7 out of the box. This is a feature that we only saw with late revision Z790 boards last generation, but is now common with Z890. Then you have a 2.5GB Ethernet port, the mounting points for your Wi-Fi antennas, an optical audio out port, and the rest of your audio jacks. Overall, this motherboard is a great option if you're building a mid-end or high-end PC. The hardware on the TUF Gaming Z890-PRO is more than capable of being paired with a Core Ultra 9 CPU. For that reason, we find that it is much more appropriate to describe it as a mid to high-end motherboard. Anyway, if you're making the jump to the next gen Intel platform, you're looking at a really good motherboard to pair with it. We highly recommend paying any of our central computer stores a visit if you're interested in that. Our stores are located in the San Francisco Bay Area and sell these parts in our store, and we can even build computers with these new components, as well as upgrade an existing computer. If you happen to be non-local, you can feel free to visit our website, and you can browse and order parts anywhere in the United States. Make sure to drop a comment if you have any questions or thoughts about the board. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.